Hello everyone, this is a quick tutorial on using the Deform to Surface modifier and node in Blender. And the problem that this setup is trying to solve is that when you try to use shrinkwrap to make a mesh deform to a surface, such as this wrap, and let's choose the sphere, it flattens your mesh. It loses all thickness, and even if you change the methods, it still just doesn't work. It always flattens your mesh. So let's use our modifier, add a geometry nodes, and pick the Deform to Surface modifier. And let's choose the object as the sphere, and it will deform beautifully to your object. If you try to move it, it will keep automatically rotating toward your object, no matter how you rotate it, and deforming correctly. There are a number of settings that we'd like to go through here. The up axis is which way is up, which way your mesh points. So right now it's the Z, and this uses the local coordinates of your mesh. So in this mesh, the local coordinates, you can always find your local coordinates by using G and pressing Z twice, each axis twice. So the Z axis points up. This is the local X axis, and this is the local Y axis. So you know which way is which. So let's turn the modifier back on, and if I change this to Y, for instance, so it deforms the mesh along the Y modifier, and you can still rotate it, and it will still deform. If I change it to X, it will deform it along the X modifier, and again, you can still rotate it, and it will still deform. Let's go back to Y so we can explain some of the other settings. Invert is just, we'll have it flip your mesh. And this works for the other axes as well. Offset is how much the mesh will be offset from the surface. It will always keep this distance. Set that back to 0. Selection is for using with geometry nodes, so you can set a selection if you don't want the whole thing to deform. Fanning this is a factor between 0 and 1. So if you set it to 1, the mesh will fan out in conformance with the normal of your object. If you don't want it to fan out, you set this to 0, and the mesh will keep its original shape. The last setting is keep top even, because as you see, the top of the mesh also deforms. If you set this to 1, then the top of the mesh will stay straight and not match the curvature of the object. Let's try another example. Instead of the sphere, let's hide the sphere. Let's show this cloth we have here, and let's set the object to the cloth. Let's change the axis to Z, and it conforms well. And you can move it around, and it will still conform. Y again. This is without fanning. If you fan this with long meshes, this really messes up the object, so you want to keep fanning to 0 in these kinds of meshes. And we can keep the top even like this, so it only deforms the top part of the mesh, and you can move it around, and it will still deform correctly. One last caveat I need to talk about. So your mesh cannot overshoot the target. So if I move this all the way outside, you'll start getting some weird results. So your mesh has to be within the bounds of your target surface. That is all, and I hope you like using the modifier. You can use this as a modifier, or you can use it as a node within your geometry nodes setup. Have a good day.